What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Andor Season 1, Episode 1, Kassa. So, out of all the recent Star Wars shows that I've watched, Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi were two that I was excited to see more because I wanted to see more of those characters and see what the shows could expand upon them. But based on the reception, I was a little nervous because it seemed like maybe the shows weren't that great, and sure enough, going into them, it was not. It felt like they were more focused on just, hey, we've got the character back, don't you want to see him again? And unfortunately, that wasn't enough to really carry it through. For Andor, I remember watching Rogue One. I liked it fine. I vaguely remember Cassian being a part of it. But it wasn't a character that really stuck with me. And so when I heard that there was a show based on his character, I was kind of like, okay, we know what happens to him, so I don't really know what they're going to do with it. But then I've actually heard really good things about it. So it's weird how the two shows that I was excited to see more of the characters, the reception wasn't great, ended up not being great. The one character that I'm just kind of iffy about, I don't really know if I want to see more about him, but I've heard good things about the show. Maybe it'll end up being great. I don't know. Based on this first episode, it's definitely taking its time. And this is a 12-episode season, which is really weird to me, that there have been a lot of 8-episode and then 7 with Boba Fett and then 6 with Kenobi. So it's weird that all of a sudden they jumped to 12 with this one. But obviously they have a little bit more time, so I guess they're doing a little bit more setup and prep and, hey, let's meet all these characters surrounding him. And for that, it's fine. Some of these characters, they're pretty fun. Writing so far is pretty solid, too. I think they've done a good job so far of getting some laughs out of me, getting me interested in some of these characters. The one scene where the one guy's coming up, I'm not going to remember all the names. The names I do remember, I remember Cassian, I remember Nyx, I think her name was. I think her boyfriend's name was Tim. Bossa, I think, was the one guy that they said he was going to cover for him. Don't remember the name of the droid. Don't remember the name of the two guys he killed, or the chief of security that said, hey, let it go, and then the one guy that's going to be coming after him probably. I hardly remember any of the names. Maybe they'll stick as we go along. But yeah, I just feel like they did a good job, because the scene with the one guy who was asking for his money back from Cassian, that scene was a good example of it's got some good comedy to it, and I feel like that's something. When I look back at Boba Fett, when I look back at Kenobi, there was a little bit of comedy, but even when the comedy was in there, it was nothing that really had me like really laughing hard. Something about that scene, it just made me laugh. When he turned to the guy, he's like, really? What are you even doing here? It's like, oh, he just told me to stand here. Like, well, you're doing a good job. Keep doing that. Something about that was just great. It was really funny, and I don't know. It's not like it was phenomenal writing or anything, but it worked for that scene, and I think the actors really brought that out as well. So it seems like I think the direction of the show so far is better than especially what I saw in Kenobi. So the directing mistakes there were really glaring and apparent. Boba Fett, I felt like the direction was fine. Maybe some of the direction in the action scenes wasn't great. So far, the action scenes look pretty good. The acting and the writing, it all kind of flows together pretty well. I think they're doing a good job of setting it up so far. Now, it's still not grabbed my interest yet. I still need a little bit more of a hook. That opening moment whenever he kills those two guards, that was kind of a nice little wow. I can't believe you went and did that. It was something that was kind of interesting, but then you sort of lost me for a little bit. They went off and did their little side things, and he's meeting people, and he's setting up this cover story, so that way if people come asking questions about it, there are people that can cover for him. So, yeah, I get what they're doing with that. And then they kind of brought me back in with the one, what was he, the deputy or something? The one guy that was very clearly, he wants to catch this guy. His what would you call him? Superior? Superior basically said, hey, ignore this. This was two guys that they were where they shouldn't have been. They were doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. They probably pissed off the wrong guy and got killed. We don't want that part of it. We don't want the bad stuff that they were doing to shine poorly on us. So we're just going to ignore that. We're not going to look into it anymore, because if we do, the truth about that will come out. So we're just going to say it was a nice little accident. They were doing something heroic, and that's what it was. It's one of those things where you feel awful, but you kind of understand why he's doing what he's doing. You may not agree with it. I don't personally agree with that thinking, but you can see from his point of view why he's doing that. And I think that's really clever the way they were setting it up. And even just having Cassian going and setting up his alibi, and then all of a sudden you've got this chief who he sees this situation, he sees the truth behind it, and he's like, yeah, well, let's just cover it up. It's inconvenient for us, it'll make us look bad, so let's cover it up and make these two guys look like heroes, not like the probably idiots that they were. But the one other, the deputy that clearly this is something personal to him, and he's somebody who I'm going to be interested to see a bit more of him as the season goes on, because, I don't know, something about his character so far is kind of, it's a little off, and I feel like that's going to make for fun moments throughout the season, because you can see those moments where he is just very straightforward, to the point, no nonsense, cutting through all the BS. I feel like as the season goes on, it feels like there's a lot of lying happening, from Cassian's point of view, from the Chief's point of view. There's a lot of lying that's probably going to be happening, and Cassian seems like he is very quick to come up with a cover story, and clearly the people that he knows are also the same way. So I feel like it's going to be interesting to see this guy who seems like doesn't tolerate any sort of lie, any sort of cover up, con. It seems like he is no nonsense. I wonder how he's going to fit into this story. And again, I don't really know what this overall story is even going to be about. So far, all I've got is that Cassian's looking for his sister. We see some flashbacks. I have no idea what's going on with the flashbacks. They're not giving me subtitles, so I don't know if we're supposed to know everything going on back then. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting setup. Him looking for his sister and clearly willing to do whatever it takes to find her. But I just don't know where all of this is going to lead. The only thing I know is there was some people, when I went to Dragon Con last year, it was like a group of them were all dressed up. One of my friends who had seen the show, he said it was from Andor. They were chanting something. I think it was like No Way Out or something along those lines. So I know there's something to do with that. I'm guessing I'll see it whenever we get there. But I really don't know much about this show. So it's kind of like a blank slate, which has me both excited, but also kind of, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. And it's got to give me a reason to be excited. And so far, it's only given me like little bits and pieces. And it's not fully like dragged me into the show yet. But from what I hear, it is a solid show overall. So I'm excited to see what everybody's talking about. Why is everybody raving about this show? Or not raving, but at least speaking highly of it. But with all that being said, that's it for the first episode. On to the second one. I'll see you there. And now episode 2, that would be me. I'm still not really sure about a lot of this stuff going on. I mean, it feels like we're still getting a lot of setup. And granted, what's interesting is the first episode was 42 minutes, the second episode was 38. Two relatively shorter episodes. I mean, some of the shows that have been on here get up past 50, close to an hour. So it's really interesting to have two shorter episodes that kind of feel like we're just sort of biding time until things eventually kick off. I almost kind of feel like you didn't need to have this extended meetup of everybody that's going to be involved with this season. At least that's what I'm assuming they're doing. Because we're meeting all these random people, some of which I still don't know how to, like, what's his name? Eric Selvig from Thor. Something Skarsgård, I think Skarsgård is his last name. I'm pretty sure it's not Bill. Bill is the one that plays Pennywise. But it's the same guy. I'm almost 100% certain it's the same guy that plays Selvig from Thor. He's like flying into the planet and then he's on a shuttle. I have no idea what he has to do with any of this. Like, unless I missed something, I'm completely lost about what's going on with that. These flashback scenes that we're getting, I'm still relatively lost. We did have, I guess, a little bit more happen in this one where it looks like it might have been a mining ship, because the one guy said that Kenari, there was apparently some Imperial mining operation that went horribly wrong. Maybe it was a mining ship that crash landed and the kids found it and one of the guys shot the kid for some reason. I don't know. Like, I have no idea what's going on there. It still feels very vague. And on the one hand, it can be clever. If you do something that has enough intrigue and mystery to it and don't give all the answers, it can keep people on the edge of their seats like, I want to know more. What's going to happen next? But the problem is, I don't feel like I'm connected to these characters enough to really feel like I'm getting engaged and I want to know more. Though honestly, I will say Cassian probably the most engaged with a character that I am out of this whole season. And a lot of that has to do with I feel like the writing and the acting on him is really good. The scenes where he's trying to, play things off, he's trying to be, a little cloak and dagger. Those are fun, but the moments when things get really serious is where he really brings his A game in my opinion. So his character has been fun and I feel like they're doing a good job with him, but some of these side characters just feel either bland or just not great. That for the most part, I would say the one guy that's leading this operation for the Promal something along those lines. The little team that's coming to find Cassian. He's pretty interesting because we see he's very passionate. He's very direct and very forward. But then I feel like he's probably got some social anxiety as well because as soon as he's given a chance to give a speech, after all these moments where he's been very firm talking one-on-one with like the chief or this guy that clearly looks up to him and agrees with his ideals, in those moments he's very much like, yes, this is what we need to do. And then all of a sudden he's given a chance to give a speech, a rally speech as they're going to track down this Andor guy. And it just comes out as very uncertain, very stuttery. he sounds very unsure of himself. It's not at all a war cry. It's much more like a, all right, guys, so we're here today for a little bit of ASMR before we go and track down this guy. Like it's not at all what you'd expect from what we've seen of him so far. So I don't know if that's because he's just nervous in front of a larger group of people, or maybe he just doesn't have that leadership capability. I don't know, because he's shown moments where whenever he's ordering people around in the inside their little office space, and he's like, hey, we need to look for this guy, do this, we need to track him down now. He seemed very authoritative there. So whether it's just because it's a bigger group of people, maybe because it's a lot more real for him now because he's actually going to be there. Maybe he's much more of the type of guy that's like, I just want to stay in the office and order people around. I don't actually want to go out there and do any fighting. So maybe that's what they're doing with it. But he's probably the second most intriguing character past Cassian. Other than that, I mean, Bix is kind of fun-ish. I will say Tim brings her down a little bit, which I did say her name was Nix in the first one. Corrected that one. hopefully it is Tim, and I'm right on that name. But the older lady, I think Marva is her name, that Cassian is staying with, and she's the one that owns B, the droid. I mean, she's fine. I think her little conversation with Cassian was probably one of the better acted scenes in this episode, so she's fun so far. I don't know what they're going to do with her. It kind of feels like they're setting it up for her to possibly be killed, and maybe that will... Like, the guys coming to get Cassian and take him in for what he did, they're going to go to her place of residence, maybe find out that's where he's been staying, and then she might get killed in the process. And so maybe that will set Cassian off on some sort of revenge quest, maybe. I don't know. I'm still also very unsure about where this story is going to go in the first place. But, I mean, it's both a little intriguing, but also kind of bland at times. It's a weird mixture at the moment where I want to be pulled along. I feel like there are moments where they are pulling me along and getting me interested in seeing more and trying to figure out some of this stuff that's going on that hasn't been fully explained yet. But then there are other times where it kind of feels either the pacing's a little off or maybe the order of events feels a little off. There are some times when they cut back to that flashbacks, all the flashback scenes, there are a few moments where it feels very jarring because I'm not really sure how we got from, we're here with, I don't remember, one of the scenes was like, I think with Tim and Bix, and they're about to get it on, and I think, I'm pretty sure we cut from that to like the old lady, and then all of a sudden we cut to, we saw the staff that Marva was holding at one point. That connected for that scene, but there were a couple before that just felt very, we're here, and now all of a sudden flashback. Now we're seeing more of this story. It just didn't always connect and flow very well. So it's a little choppy, it's a little off at times. But all in all, I will say I've definitely I'm not as frustrated with this one as I am with Boba Fett and Kenobi, and I think a lot of that comes down to my expectations for this are not high. So I do have to take that into account. When I look at Kenobi, when I look at Boba Fett, are they really the worst things ever? Kenobi is pretty close. Some of the mistakes in that show are pretty bad, and especially coming from a production company like this, they should not be making those types of mistakes. But when I look at it as a whole, is it really terrible? No, I've seen far worse. I've seen far worse writing, I've seen far worse directing and acting. It's definitely been worse before, but I think my expectation for shows can really affect what my overall view of it is. So, going into Andor, again, I didn't really have any expectations. So, from these first 2 episodes, it's not been great, it's not been terrible, but I think if this were a show that I had higher expectations for, that I was really excited to see, these 2 episodes probably would have frustrated me a little bit because I feel like we're sort of dragging our feet. But as it is, I'm just kind of indifferent right now. So we'll see if they can get me more interested as the season goes along, but that'll do it for the second episode. On to the third one. I'll see you there. And now, episode 3, Reckoning. So this was definitely a slow burn, but now that we've officially reached the point that I think this series, this season is trying to get to, it's definitely got me a lot more interested. I mean, that whole final scene from the point where it's Cassian and I think his name is Luthen, the guy that plays Eric Selvig, the point that they're meeting and you see all the soldiers coming in, you see the people start banging on this stuff, that whole final sequence up until the very end I thought was very, very, very well done. I've talked about the pacing problems I had. There were still a few before that. There's still a few moments where it kind of felt like, I don't know, again, we're jumping between where we are in the present and the flashbacks, a little strange places. I'm not really sure exactly how they're connecting it. I mean, I'm glad we got to see this is apparently how he got off of that planet, is Marva picked him up whenever she was going in and, I guess, looking through that Imperial ship. But I think they did a good job in that one little bit of flashback showing how he got off the planet, how she picked him up and seemingly raised him. But then also we heard that apparently his home planet, there was, I guess, a bit of a disaster there. And I'm assuming it's the Imperials went and wiped him out, and she even said, the kids here, they killed one of the Imperial officers, so they're going to come in and they're just going to raze this place to the ground. So I really like the fact that we're getting a bit more of that. Now, it seems weird that, I don't know, seemingly he leaves with them, and then the Empire comes in and destroys that place because of what they did to fight back against the officers that showed up and crash landed there. But how does he think that his sister is still alive then? Like, what has convinced him that his sister is out there? So I don't know if we'll get that answer. Maybe he heard about somebody that has his sister's name, maybe saw her somewhere. Maybe we'll see a couple more flashbacks where we'll see some of the girls were taken from that planet and used by the Empire somewhere else. I don't know. It's got a lot of good mystery involving that part of it. But where the main story is going right now, where he's teaming up with this Luthen guy, and I'm guessing this is probably going to lead, because I do not remember where he is in Rogue One. Again, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. I don't remember what his story was when he met Jen in that movie. So I can't remember if he was working with the Resistance or if he just knew people who were. I don't remember how he was involved with the Resistance. I know they were going on a mission to go get the plans for the Death Star. I remember that part of it. But I don't know if this is going to lead him joining up with the Resistance or maybe making contact with the Resistance for the first time. Just some interesting possible plot points going forward that I think is going to be fun. And I feel like this pairing of him and Luthen is already kind of showing its promise, where Luthen clearly knows a lot about how to survive in this world and this Imperial rule. And so it's going to be a lot of, clearly Andor is a very good, very capable guy. Like, he knows how to get out of tight situations. He knows how to handle himself. But with his skills, he could probably be doing more if somebody could teach him how to, I guess, understand the Empire and how they work a little bit better. I don't know. It's very interesting because clearly Luthen has the mindset, he's got the knowledge and the know-how, whereas Cassian has the physical prowess, I think. So with the two of them combined, it's going to be interesting to see how they use that team up and what sort of missions are they going to go on, what are they about to go do, and how are they going to utilize them working together. I'm excited to see more of it though, because I think from this first one, you can see the young brash not really thinking everything fully through. Of course, he's just thinking about this piece of the ship that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he stole it out of Marva's ship. I don't exactly know why she had a part like that, but clearly, it shows that he was willing to sell something of hers, I think, to get the money that he needed. I think that's also why he wanted to apologize to her. But in his mind, he's thinking, I want to get that back, because if I'm not going to sell it to this guy for money, I don't want just anybody to have it. But of course, Luthen's like, no, we got to get out of here. I mean, they are right there. They're shooting at us. This place is coming down. We can't stay here for too long. So that sort of back and forth, I feel like, is going to probably pop its head up for the next couple episodes as they're probably going to be working together. Maybe. But hopefully it doesn't stick around for too long, because that sort of bickering or the, hey, do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this instead. I'm not a big fan of it if it sticks around for too long. So hopefully it sort of moves on in the next couple episodes. As far as we see Bix and Tim in this one, she realizes Tim betrayed Cassian, and I think her reaction is accurate. She even said, I think it was in the first episode, she was talking about how because Cassian asked how much did he know, she said he would never betray my trust, and it implied that she had told him a lot of stuff that maybe Cassian wouldn't have wanted her to tell, but she trusted him. She trusted him not to go and do something stupid. And then he does go and do something stupid. And I think her reaction is accurate. You did all of this. And honestly, I didn't even talk about it. I just talked about how Tim was not great in the last episode. But yeah, the fact that he turns Cassian in because he got jealous of it, it's stupid to me. Like, I know there's probably a little bit more there. I know it's probably not just jealousy, also feeling like he's putting her in danger. He's making her do stuff that he doesn't like. I could see more than just jealousy, possibly. But overall, it comes down to the reason why he went and called is because he was drunk in the bar, and he saw them, saw Cassian put his hand on hers for a second, and that's when he stormed out. So clearly, at least jealousy is what pushed him to go make that call. So it made him look very shallow. It made him not a likable character. So I'm glad Bix gave him, a little bit of pushback, and can't remember what she told him right before she left or what she called him, but clearly very pissed at him. And then, of course, she gets taken up because she looks scared and a little guilty of something. And then here comes Tim trying to rectify his mistake and gets himself shot. And it is one of those weird things where you kind of feel a little bad for Bix because obviously she did like this guy. And even though he betrayed her trust, it's one of those weird mental things where, yeah, in that moment, you're angry, you're pissed. But then if something bad happened to that person, I think about that one episode of How I Met Your Mother. I know it's a funny show, but the episode where they talk about Lily's like "you're dead to me" stare, and then she finds out one of the random people that she felt wronged by that she gave that to all of a sudden dies before she had a chance to rectify anything with them. And it really is true. Like, you have that feeling of you want to rectify a situation. You have that deep down. Even people that really wrong you, there's still a little part of you that probably wishes, I wish we could work things out. I wish we could fix what's wrong. But ultimately, it's probably not smart, especially if it's been multiple occasions of something bad happening. It's not a good idea. But you can still dream. You can still wonder, what would it be like if we lived back in how it was before, before all the fighting, before all the issues. And if something were to happen to that person, there really is kind of this grief that comes from that. So it's a weird feeling because in the moment, when Tim gets shot, I'm not really feeling bad for him at all because haven't seen much of him this season, but in the few bits we've seen of him, shallow, jealous, kind of an asshole. I didn't really care that he got shot. I kind of laughed about it, honestly. But seeing Bix's reaction, it really does cement that feeling. And it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. If you've had something in your life where you had somebody you had got into a fight with that you used to be close with, or things went wrong and something bad happens to them and you can't have a chance to rectify it, there is just that little bit of that guilt, that grief that comes from that I think they did a good job of. I don't know if they'll talk about it, but at least in the moment, it wasn't like yeah, I don't care, he was an asshole, he turned us all in, he's the reason they're here in the first place. They could have easily gone for that, where she just didn't really care that he got shot, but they showed she still did care. So I am glad that they did that, and I do hope we can explore a little bit more that feeling of pain that can come about in a situation like that. But all in all, I mean, again, this was a very solid episode, and I think it's a good start for the season finally. I really do feel like the first two episodes were a lot of build up and were definitely a lot slower because of that. So I wasn't really getting into it, but this is the first episode where I really started feeling myself getting into the action, the characters, everything that's going on. You know, the little things that Luthen and Cassian are doing to fool the guards were just really brilliant. The moment whenever the one guy, I think his name is Sybil, whenever, first of all, Cassian has him at gunpoint, you can see instantly, he's not a guy that is built for the field. You know, he, as soon as he gets questioned, as soon as there's a threat of death, instantly gives away exactly how many people are there. So there's that moment, and then whenever he goes and sees the wreckage and sees everything that happened, just that look of, I'm out of my element here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what they're going to do with him from here. Maybe this will kind of force him to have to step up a bit more. Maybe out of fear, he'll start to, I guess, push himself too far, a little bit over the edge. But it is kind of all his fault that more of these guys died. If he had just left it alone, like his chief said, more people wouldn't be dead right now. More of his men would not be dead. So it is a little bit on him too. And I do wonder if that's also playing through his mind. But there were just several good moments throughout that final scene. Some of the lines from Marva, as well as they're banging, and she's talking about the reckoning, that was brilliant. I think her actress is really killing her scenes. Even that final bit, whenever she's crying as he's, leaving, and she's remembering probably when she first picked him up. There is a little bit of a tugging of the heartstrings going on there. So, yeah, very good first 3 episodes though. It's definitely, if this had all been one episode, I think it would have been a lot. I mean, it would have been a lot longer, clearly, but I think I would have enjoyed these episodes more if it wasn't 3 different episodes. I think the first 2 dragged a little bit for me because it was a lot of build up. I think if this had maybe shortened down the first 2 episodes a little bit more, spend a little less time on introductions of some of these characters, and then this 3rd episode is where it all ends off, I think this would have been a fantastic start to the season. But as it is, I think it's still really good. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next, and then we'll see what transpires next. But anyways, with that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these first 3 episodes of Andor? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Andor reviews. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.